أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program of Dua Tawassul. Inshallah, before I begin the program with the recitation of Dua, just a reminder, inshallah, this upcoming weekend, starting from Thursday night, we will have a series of 3 majalis commemorating the wafat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam on Thursday, October 15th. Program will, of course, coincide with Shab Jummah program starting at 8 p.m. with Hadith Kisa, Dua Kumail, followed by the Majlis. And then the series of 2 majalis commemorating the shahadat of our second Imam, Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salatu wassalam, and on 29th of Safar, which will be the shahadat of our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada alayhi salatu wassalam. Both of these majalis will be in Urdu, addressed by Maulana Syed Safi Haidar Sahab from India. Inshallah, these 2 majalis will be Friday and Saturday, October 16th and October 17th. And starting time will be remaining at 8 p.m. Majlis will start sharp at 8. All of these majalis are going to be held online. We request all of you to please tune in for all of these upcoming events. So once again, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 days series of majalis commemorating very important personalities in our Islamic faith. With that, inshallah, we will start with our dua. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله قدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The best dua. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Once again, just a reminder, inshallah, this coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we will have a series of 3 majalis. Thursday, of course, will be with Shab Jummah program, commemorating the wafat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Friday and Saturday, the 2 majalis commemorating the shahadat of our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba, and Saturday, the shahadat of Imam Ali ibn Musa wassalam. And these two majalis will be addressed in Urdu by Maulana Syed Sahab from India. So do join us for all of these programs that are coming up, inshallah, this weekend. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وبالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, in this brief time that I have, I chose this ayat from Surah Nisa, ayat number 58, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses by saying that Inna Allah ya'murukum, that indeed Allah commands you to return that which has been entrusted to you to the rightful owners. Basically, the concept of returning the amanat to those who have entrusted you with those amanat. So this could be something which is very small. This could be something which is very big. It doesn't matter, small or big. If it's an amanat, if it's a trust that has been given to you, then you must fulfill this trust. وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, and if you pass judgment among the people, أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ, make sure that your judgment is based on the criteria of justice and adl. Very short ayah, but very powerful message that you find. Two things that we can derive from this ayah. One is the concept of trusts that we have from other people. Now, trusts don't have to be in the form of financial means or monetary funds. Rather, trust could be, some secret that you may be carrying. Trust could be something that you're holding on for someone else. And that is a very important trait in human being. We all know the story of the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that before he announced his risalat at the age of 40, he was known as Amin and Sadiq. Amin is someone who returns the amanat, or Amin is someone whose people bring their amanat to them. Therefore, the ayat says, An tu'addul amanat, which is the plural of amana. That prophet was Amin. That means people used to keep their amanat, their trusts with the prophet. Of course, in a society where there was no concept of banking, safe deposit boxes or anything of that sort, people needed to keep their important stuff somewhere which would be considered safe. And therefore, Prophet was one of those places that people would bring their amanat and keep him with the Prophet, knowing that they can trust him, that he will never run away from these trusts, that even when he had to leave the city of Mecca to save his life and the life of his companions, he made sure that he left someone behind who was equal as far as his amanat or amin or being trustworthy is concerned. So therefore, he leaves behind that which is amin and not someone who would be, squandering Prophet's hard work, the credibility that he has built. Because easily, Prophet could have taken all of this wealth as he's been now deprived and being returned, or things have been confiscated from him. But the fact of the matter, the Prophet displays this act of, amanadari, and of course he's Sadiq, which is the one who always speaks the truth, who is always righteous, even if this righteousness goes against him. The ayat of Quran also refers to this fact that even if it goes against yourself and your family members, don't leave the path of righteousness. So let's look at this ayah very quickly. I recited the translation, two important messages that are being given here. The integrity with trusts, just behavior and being away from prejudice is amongst the most important signs of faith. So if you want to look at what faith is, faith not only is part of being, the usul-din and the furu-din, but along with this faith, that you believe in Allah, you believe in His adalat, you believe in nubuwat, imamat, and qiyamat, and you fulfill your duties of, prayers and fasts and so on and so forth. But along with that, that behavior that you have to display. Someone could be believer of usul and furu, believes in the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but does not deal with people in the same way. So these traits are very important traits that shape up even some of our obligations, and our amal are resting upon the ability to display these traits. So if we're lacking these traits or these features in our lives, then what use is this salat? For example, if I'm not just with people, if I'm not ameen when it comes to the trusts of the people, if I'm not keeping the secrets or the trust that people have entrusted me with, if I'm not speaking truthfully in front of them, if I'm lying amongst them, then what good is my salat? That on one occasion I'm lying and then I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then I pray. Now that doesn't mean that I should stop praying. That means that I should have sharam and haya and modesty, that while I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I speak, this is a conversation between the Khaliq and Makhluk, from the same tongue I go ahead and I misuse it and I lie. I don't use it for truthfulness. Or with my actions that I'm performing the salat, or I'm depriving myself to perform fasts of the month of Ramadan, or mustahab fast for that matter. I'm waking up early to perform namaz al-shab, salatul layl. But at the same time, when it comes to the amanat of the people, the trusts of the people, I make a lot of mistakes. And there's a lot of discrepancy in this. There's, fraudulent behavior in that. So now you go ahead and put these two things together. Of course, in ayat of Quran says, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only accepts the actions from those who are muttaqeen. That's why when the two brothers presented their sacrifice, it was accepted from one and it was rejected from the other. The story of Habil and the story of Qabil. Habil alayhi was killed by his brother Qabil. And Qabil, who made this covenant, made this vow that I will definitely kill you. But his sacrifice that he was given, ayat of Quran was revealed, or is mentioning to the Holy Prophet about that incident, that إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ, that Allah only accepts the actions of those who are muttaqeen. So if you're lacking the feature of being just and adalat, if you're lacking the feature of being ameen and trustworthy, then of course these two features will definitely dent the actions that you perform. So therefore, betrayal of trust is a sign of hypocrisy. We read in hadith that says, don't look at the lengthy ruku and the sujood of the people. Rather look at their righteousness and their trustworthiness. Because a lot of time, the salat or the other actions that they're performing, they could be for misleading. There were a lot of hypocrites, munafiqeen, that were performing these actions. Even today, people have doubts. Amir Sham kept up his prayers, performed the fast, performed Hajj. Even his son, to an extent, did things to show to people. Those who were standing in front of Imam Hussein, والسلام, they would pause for their salat and they would do all of those things. And many of them may be shabs in the dar, that means remaining vigil all night long, performing namaz shab. So hadith says, don't look at the long sujood and the ruku of the people. Rather look at their righteousness and trustworthiness. If they're lacking the righteousness and the trustworthiness, then their long ruku and sujood should not deceive you. In this verse, the word returning trust to the rightful owner is clear indication of the concept of imamat and the leadership of the society, which belongs to Ahlul Bayt. The only way a community can prosper is by having leaders that act with justice, the smallest of the actions. That's why in reference to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib والسلام, it was mentioned that قُتِلَ عَلِيٌّ فِي الْمِحْرَابِ لِشِدَّةِ عَدْلِهِ, that Ali was martyred in the mihrab of Masjid for the extensive and immense adl that he possessed. All these people who stood by Amir al-Mu'mineen in the time of the three khilafat or the caliphs, those Jalilul Qadr Ashab who remain the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen as well. But comes the time of Khilafat al-Zahiri of Amir al-Mu'mineen, these people expecting that, okay, Ali is now going to return the favor to us. We were loyal to him, now he's going to deal with us in the same way. Nepotism, favoritism. But there's no such thing as favoritism and nepotism in the dictionary of Ali ibn Abi Talib. In fact, when he addresses his governors, he addresses them that don't devour your people just because you have authority over them. That's the hukumat of Ali. And so these people, when they saw that they're not getting what they were expecting, then right away they turned their backs against Amir al-Mu'minin. So the only way a community can prosper is having leaders that act with justice. If there's action, their actions are lacking justice and trustworthiness, then of course this will trickle down into the ummah as well. And the reason behind failed and broken state is incompetent rulers and their unjust judgment. You look at what happened within the 50 years of the wafat of the Holy Prophet, the religion that he had taken to the heights, the peak, where the ayat is revealed, Al-Yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam deena. That where Allah tells that I have perfected it, I have completed it. It's at the peak, at the Nahj, at the top, that it cannot go higher than this. But then the downfall due to the incompetent rulers and the leadership. So when we look at that, there are certain external elements to that list as well, which is, of course, become a hindrance in the way and the obstacle in the way. There are three types of trust, as I'm wrapping up this in the next couple of minutes, between insan, makhluk, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So between mankind and God. What are these trusts, duties, and obligations which have been determined for mankind? That this is what you have to do, this is what you have to refrain from. This is a trust between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, if we don't perform these things, that means we are breaching the trust. This is a covenant, this is the trust which is written between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken that mithaq, that covenant from us. So by not performing these obligations, these duties, what are we doing? We are breaking and breaching this trust between us and Allah. Second is the trust between people with other people, mankind with others. That comes in the way of, properties or wealth or secrets of others, the confidentiality and all those things. That's the trust between people. And lastly, the trust between mankind and himself, humans and themselves. This trust is in the form of the knowledge, the life, and the power which is in our possession. That how do we utilize this knowledge? How do we utilize this power? How do we utilize this life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us? I will stop over here because if I went in the details of it, I will not be able to serve justice to this whole discussion. But just so we conclude, there's a question that should rise in your mind. Why the character and the behavior of some Muslims is opposite to their religious beliefs? When this is being said, when so much emphasis has been placed on trustworthiness, and being adil and just. Then you look in the Muslim Ummah, Muslim society, Muslim world. And of course, we can blame ourselves. We can look into our own, halat and condition and condemn ourselves. We have the right to condemn ourselves. So I'm speaking only on behalf of our own Muslim Ummah. Now, why is it the character and the behavior of some Muslims is opposite to their religious beliefs? When Allah is straightforward asking us to be trustworthy, to be ameen, to be sadiq, to be righteous, and to be adil, why is it that their actions are opposite to that? So much corruption in the Muslim world, so much corruption by the Muslim leaders and the rulers. Why do we say, even in the Muslim societies, that people are not dealing with justice when it comes to the governmental issues, or when it comes to the areas of law enforcement agencies, for example? They're not adil when it comes to the court of law, when it comes to the judges, the Supreme Court, the other courts. And of course, they're not righteous when it comes to their business transactions. There's so much deceiving going on. Why is it that do we see that, even with correct beliefs that we have in our religion, there exists contradiction in the religious beliefs of us Muslims? What is the reason behind this contradiction? Let's ponder over this concept. I'll answer it, and then inshallah, you guys will think about it more. Answer is simple. Mankind is a multi-dimensional creature. The different types of dimensions that exist in insan are the spiritual, which is godly, materialistic, which is, of course, worldly or animalistic, the social animal as we are, that we mingle with others, and of course, there's love that exists in us. These dimensions are at odds with each other and can cause disturbance or discord between man's belief and his actions and his behavior. For example, I know that this is where the haqq is. I should not let go of this person if I'm, for example, in some means of authority as a judge, and I know that this person has committed a sin and they should be punished for that. But the love that I have for that person, because that person is my own son, that person is my own brother, that person is my own blood, is going to get in the way. And I'll try to mental with the entire justice system. I'll start to play with the justice system. So while haqq is my spiritual side, which is the godly side, tells me that this is what I should do, but the love that I have will pull me to the other side. So therefore you find what? You find contradiction in our amal when it comes to our beliefs, which are set, but the actions and the behavior. So Islam condemns terrorism. Islam condemns taking the life of an innocent person, regardless of their faith, creed, wherever they come from. And Islam condemns harassment, bigotry, discrimination, spewing hate, using false claims. All of these things are condemned, but you still see the groups such as ISIS come about, Al-Qaeda come about, Taliban come about, the Salafi, the Wahhabi, they come about. All of these different sects that emerge, that of course you wonder and you question. You should be questioning, while others are already questioning. That why is it that when Islam is preaching something, the followers are acting in a different way? Of course, you don't put the religion at fault. It is the fault of individuals. And that's what we saw in Karbala as well. The failing judgment of the people who were praying, who were fasting, who were doing all of the actions which are required, but because of the love that they had for the world. Umar Asad, he stands up against Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein said, what is the price they're paying you for this? He said, I will have the government of Shahr-e-Ray. Imam responded by saying, the city of Ray, you won't even be able to taste the bread of the city of Ray. I am giving you this confirmation right now. Leave this path. You will not be able to taste anything from that city, let alone being the governor or the ruler of that city. But of course, he knew who Imam Hussein was. He grew up seeing Imam Hussein. He understands the family of Imam Hussein. He knows his place and his virtues and his maqam, and he knows what he's doing is wrong. That judgment is there in him. But because of the love of the materialism that he had, he did what he did. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq that we learn from these examples and we become those who fulfill the duties of being trustworthy and adil when it comes to people around us. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. متوجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعنيس النفوس، أيها المدفون بأرض تونس ابن موسى رضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وانصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل. Inshallah, Thursday we will have the wafat of Rasulullah. Friday we will have the shahadat of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, and Saturday we will have the shahadat of Imam Ali ibn Musa Majlis. Please do join us for all of these programs. All three programs will start at 8 p.m. Assalamu alaikum.